key. We cannot break strong encryption.
And that's why the government, hackers, and other players are angry. We all use some kind of encryption, but it can easily go away for good. Let's backtrack to September 2020. Our old buddy Lindsey Graham went beast mode in the Senate hearing.
You're going to find a way to do this, or we're going to do it for you. You're either the solution or you're the problem.
But what did big tech companies do to hear this disappointed dad talk? It relates to this Earn It bill, also called Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act. The creators of this bill wanted to stop child exploitation online. Sounds noble, doesn't it? Yet so many digital rights organizations are opposed to it. As always, it's a bit more complicated than it looks. The Earn It Act asks tech companies to look for exploitation on their platforms. And this little word, look, could mean doing away with encryption that gives privacy and security to everyone. But before we decide who to trust and who's really protecting us here, let's take a deep, hard look at encryption. What is it? How does it work? And is it really private? Encryption is basically a unique secret code you use to communicate with another person. Kind of like creating your own language. Let's say Vlad is trying to communicate with Karen from another corner of the world. Their phones can't connect to each other, so they need a server, kind of a middleman who relays the message. And that server is critical here, because when you communicate, that server not only relays the message, but also stores all of the information going through it. Your love letters, your credit card details, your spicy pictures, everything. Need some privacy with that? Enter encryption. The simple way of encryption is this. You and your friend use your own encryption. You know, a specific language. And then the server translates it and relays it to the other. And here lies the problem, because the server is decrypting it. That means it is reading it, and hackers or our personal FBI agents could ask it to spill the beans. That's where end-to-end encryption comes in. The server's still there, kind of relaying the message, but it can't understand it because we now have this complicated public and private key system. If anyone asks for your or your friend's information or messages, the server cannot provide it because it simply doesn't know.
Encryption does work because an encrypted message cannot be unlocked without a mathematical key.
And that's why the government, hackers, and other players are angry. They want to make tech companies share, whether you are plotting to overthrow the government or just sharing pictures of otters. Now let's go back to the Earn It Act, which aims to completely destroy encryption. State legislatures would have unprecedented power over websites and pressure companies to scan your messages, your cloud storage, and your online photos. While encryption can help, it might not be the savior we think it is. Scientists have found multiple vulnerabilities in the Telegram app in the past. While the user count is skyrocketing, apps scramble to fix the issues. And in 2020, a vulnerability was found in Signal, an app used by many companies and politicians. The vulnerability allowed attackers to track the user's location. So encryption alone is not enough and will not protect you if these vulnerabilities keep popping up and hackers keep exploiting them. But there's another teeny tiny problem. Even if the app implements encryption, it doesn't mean that it's enabled by default. Some of the encrypted apps that we use every day are famous for what is called dark patterns. This means they will brand themselves as extremely secure and caring for your privacy, but then manipulate you into giving it up. The European Data Protection Board has a whole list of these patterns. For example, being so overwhelmed with requests, possibilities, and choices that you decide to give out your data just to make it stop. But even if tech companies are not as safe as they proclaim to be, encryption is still important to us. The risks are enormous. Take a look at the case of this businesswoman. 23-year-old Bree ran her fashion business on Instagram. She messaged people about prices and sent invoices. So when her Instagram was compromised and hacked, the whole business was gone. In the words of the famous cypherpunk, privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. And even though we all like to bash tech companies for various flaws and imperfections, when it comes to this speech,
you're going to find a way to do this, or we're going to do it for you.
It's not only talking to tech companies. It's talking to all of us. Either we let the government in our private lives, or they barge in uninvited. Next time you hear about getting rid of evil encryption, stop and think. Is it really about protecting the kids, or can there be another intention behind it? This personal privacy versus national security debate is a never-ending one. Subscribe to our channel and we'll tackle it together.